You have two choices: surrender and live, or fight and die. Most people would choose to live. That's not weakness, that's human. But the warriors in today's video, they chose differently, and the reasons why will stay with you long after this video ends. There is a plateau in the Judean desert, rising nearly 1,400 feet above the Dead Sea, that the Romans called Masada. It is beautiful in the way that only remote, impossible places can be. Red rock, brutal sun, a flat top that looks like God himself cut it with a knife. In 73 AD, nearly 960 Jewish rebels, men, women, children, elderly, were living on that plateau. They had been there for 3 years, since the Romans crushed the great Jewish revolt and burned Jerusalem to the ground. They had food, they had water, they had walls. For 3 years, the Roman Empire could not touch them. Then the Romans built a ramp. That's the part that always gets me, the sheer will of it. Roman General Lucius Flavius Silva ordered his legion and thousands of Jewish slaves to build an earthen assault ramp up the side of the cliff. It took months, but they did it. And when it was finished, the people on top of Masada understood what it meant. The Romans were coming. Nothing could stop them now. And Rome did not take kindly to people who had humiliated the empire. What waited on the other side of surrender was not mercy. It was slavery to cry, or worse, for every soul on that mountain. The night before the Romans were set to breach the walls, the leader of the Sicarii rebels, a man named Eleazar ben Yair, gathered his people. What he said that night has been preserved through the Roman historian Josephus for nearly 2,000 years. Long ago, we resolved to serve neither the Romans nor anyone else but only God. Now the time has come that bids us prove our determination by our deeds. He didn't rage. He didn't scream. He spoke quietly, the way people speak when they have already made peace with something. He told them, "We chose freedom, and now we choose how this ends, on our terms, not theirs." He asked every man to take the life of his own family, to hold them, to make it quick, to spare them what the Romans would do. Then 10 men were chosen by lot to do what needed to be done for the others. Then 1 man remained, and he fell on his own sword. When the Romans finally broke through the next morning, they came in ready for a fight. They found silence. Nearly 960 people, gone, by their own hands, on their own terms the night before. 2 women and 5 children had hidden in a cistern and survived. They told the Romans what had happened. The Roman soldiers, hardened veterans who had seen everything the ancient world had to offer, stood in silence. Even they did not know what to say. Today in modern Israel, there is a phrase, "Masada shall not fall again," that carries the full weight of what those 960 people chose on that mountain. You can call it tragic. You can wonder if there was another way, but you cannot read that story and feel nothing. San Antonio, Texas, February 1836. A crumbling Spanish mission called the ALAMO holds 189 men from what would become the Republic of Texas. Outside its walls, General Santa Anna and somewhere between 1,500 and 6,000 Mexican soldiers. The men inside were outnumbered by at least 8 to 1. They had been given every chance to leave. Santa Anna had sent an emissary with a clear offer: surrender now, and your lives will be spared. The commander of the garrison, Lieutenant Colonel William Barrett Travis, was 26 years old, 26. He sat down and wrote a letter, not a military dispatch, a letter to anyone who would read it. "I am besieged by 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Anna. The enemy has demanded a surrender at discretion. Otherwise, the garrison are to be put to the sword. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. I shall never surrender or retreat." He ended it with 3 words that history never forgot: victory or death. He signed it, then added, P.S. The Lord is on our side. He was 26 years old. He knew he was going to die, and he picked up a pen and told the world why it mattered anyway. The siege lasted 13 days. On the morning of March 6, 1836, Santa Anna ordered a final assault before dawn. Multiple directions simultaneously. The fighting was room by room. Men who had run out of ammunition using their rifles as clubs. Among the defenders, Jim Bowie, sick with typhoid and fighting from his bed. Davy Crockett, frontiersman, former congressman, a man with no obligation to be there at all, who chose to be there anyway. By sunrise, all 189 defenders were dead. Here is what people miss when they only talk about the heroics. Those men bought time, 13 days. 6 weeks later, Sam Houston's army, shouting, "Remember the Alamo," defeated Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto in 18. The men who died at the Alamo never saw it happen. But without them, it doesn't happen at all. And it is, by almost any measure, one of the most extraordinary last stands in all of military history, September 12, 1897. The northwest frontier of what was then British India, rugged, unforgiving territory that now sits on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. A small signal post called Sarigari connected 2 larger British forts. It was manned by 21 soldiers of the 36th Sikh Regiment, just 21 men. On that September morning, an estimated 10,000 Orakzai and Afridi tribesmen surrounded the post. 10,000. The commanding officer was Havildar Ishar Singh. A Havildar is roughly equivalent to a sergeant, not a general, not famous. A sergeant doing his job in a lonely outpost at the edge of the empire. He sent a signal to the nearest British fort, surrounded, numbers impossible, requesting orders. The reply came back: reinforcements cannot reach you in time. He had 2 options: retreat and likely be cut down in the open, or hold and buy the 2 forts time to prepare their defenses. He chose to hold, not because he was ordered to, not because there was any hope of survival, because someone had to stand in the gap, and Ishar Singh decided it would be him. The battle lasted most of the day. The 21 soldiers held off wave after wave. They fought from walls, then from roofs as the outer walls fell. The tribesmen tried to burn the post down around them. One by one, the 21 fell. The last man standing was Havildar Ishar Singh himself. When the final door was about to be breached, he stepped outside, into the open, and charged. He was alone. He charged anyway. The battle killed an estimated 180 to 600 tribesmen. 21 men held the pass long enough for both forts to survive. When the British Parliament heard what happened at Sarigari, the House of Commons rose to its feet in a standing ovation. All 21 soldiers were awarded the Indian Order of Merit, the highest gallantry award available to Indian soldiers at the time. In the Sikh community, September 12th is observed as Sarigari Day every year. Still, Thermopylae gets taught in every school. The Alamo is known across the world. Sarigari is not. That is a gap in history that deserves to be filled. 21 men stood against 10,000, and they held. I want to tell you about the 4th story carefully, because this one is different. The others were warriors, trained soldiers who made a choice on a battlefield. This one is about civilians, ordinary people, mothers, children. And it is the most heartbreaking story of all. July 1944, the island of Saipan in the Pacific. American forces had landed and were pushing across the island. As the lines advanced, thousands of Japanese civilians were pushed north, toward a set of high cliffs above the sea called Marpi Point. The Japanese military had told these civilians something that was not true. They had told them that American soldiers were monsters, that surrender meant torture, that death was better than capture. American soldiers rigged up loudspeakers, brought Japanese-American translators to call out, "Come down, you are safe, we will not harm you." Some listened, many hundreds surrendered and were treated humanely. But many did not believe it. And so, on those cliffs, which American veterans could never fully describe without their voices breaking, civilians jumped, mothers holding their children, families stepping off the edge together. American Marines on the beach below were screaming at them not to, waving their arms. Some wept openly. I want to stop here and say something important. This is not a story about bravery in the way the others are. These were not soldiers making a calculated choice. These were people who had been lied to, who were terrified, who made a decision in the worst possible moment with the worst possible information. The tragedy of Saipan is not that they chose death. The tragedy is what had to be done to human beings to make them believe death was the only option. The women and children of Saipan deserve to be remembered, not as symbols, as human beings who were failed by their government, by propaganda, by a war that should never have reached them. 4 stories, 4 different centuries, 4 corners of the world, a mountain in Judea, a crumbling mission in Texas, a signal post on the Afghan frontier, a cliff above the Pacific, and in every single one, the same impossible human moment, the moment someone looked at everything they stood to lose and decided it was not enough to make them stop. I've been thinking about why these stories stay with us, why we keep telling them century after century. I think it's because they answer a question that lives quietly at the bottom of every human heart. What am I made of? And what would I do? Most of us will never know. Most of us will never be pushed to that edge. And that is a good thing.